In a quiet, peaceful neighborhood on the outskirts of Savannah, Georgia, the Daniels family had long been a respected and admired part of the community. Their home sat nestled among other neatly kept houses in a tight-knit suburb where neighbors greeted each other with friendly smiles, and weekend barbecues were common. The Daniels, known for their strong religious faith and active involvement in local church activities, were viewed as the ideal family. John and Mary Daniels, the parents, had raised their children, Brian and Hannah, with strong values. Brian, at 29, was the eldest, a steady, dependable accountant who had always been protective of his younger sister, Hannah, a beloved 26-year-old elementary school teacher. Together, they often attended church services, volunteered for local charities, and were seen by many as model citizens. Everyone in the neighborhood admired their close sibling bond. They were the kind of family you'd see at church on Sundays, always sitting together, and active in organizing community events. But behind closed doors, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. For years, Brian and Hannah shared a connection that went beyond the typical sibling bond. As children, they had been each other's best friends, inseparable. However, as they grew older, that connection took on an unhealthy and secretive twist. What started as an emotional closeness evolved into something more complicated and forbidden. Over time, they began engaging in a relationship that crossed boundaries, a secret they kept buried deep, knowing it would devastate their family and shatter the image they had worked so hard to maintain. Both knew it was wrong, but the emotional attachment was too strong. They struggled with guilt and shame, feeling trapped in a situation they couldn't escape. Still, they continued to live under the same roof, pretending that everything was normal, while their secret ate away at them from the inside. Hannah, in particular, felt the weight of the secrecy. She had dreams of starting a family of her own one day and building a life separate from Brian. The burden of their relationship became too much for her to carry. She had begun seeing someone, hoping that moving on would break the destructive cycle. She wanted to end the connection with Brian and put their dark secret behind her for good. One evening, the tension between the two reached its breaking point. It was a hot summer night in July when the family had gathered for a simple dinner. Their parents had gone to bed early, leaving Brian and Hannah alone in the house. That's when it all unraveled. They started arguing, their voices rising in the stillness of the night. Hannah pleaded with Brian to let her move on, to leave the past behind and live a normal life. She had even considered moving out of the family home to distance herself from him. But Brian, overwhelmed by feelings of betrayal and rejection, couldn't accept it. The bond they shared, toxic as it was, felt too important to him. As the argument escalated, emotions took over. In a fit of rage and desperation, Brian lost control. The argument became physical, and in that moment of uncontrolled anger, the situation took a tragic turn. Hannah's life was taken that night, and the consequences were irreversible. When the police arrived, they found Brian sitting in silence, still in shock from what he had done. He didn't resist arrest and quickly confessed to the crime, explaining the years of emotional torment and the secret relationship that had led to this moment. His confession left the entire neighborhood in disbelief. News of the tragedy spread quickly, sending shockwaves through their community. People who had once admired the Daniels family were left stunned by the revelations. Friends and neighbors struggled to comprehend how such a seemingly perfect family could have harbored such dark secrets. The Daniels church community was left reeling, trying to reconcile the image of the devoted family they knew with the tragic events that had unfolded. During the trial, Brian expressed deep remorse for his actions, explaining how years of guilt, obsession, and emotional entanglement had driven him to the breaking point. His defense emphasized the emotional and mental strain he had been under, but it did little to soften the reality of what he had done. The court sentenced him to prison for manslaughter, and the once proud Daniels family was left broken and forever changed by the events of that night. This story serves as a tragic reminder of how hidden emotions and unresolved issues can spiral out of control, leading to devastating consequences. It's a case that left a lasting scar on a family and a community, highlighting the importance of confronting difficult truths and seeking help before things go too far.